Hey everyone, welcome to the Wonka frame build tutorial. So this is going to be built on an 8x8 20x20 centimetre frame. As I explained with the Alice, if you are wanting to paint this with acrylic paint, you are best getting bare wood. Obviously the white, it's got sort of like a coating on it, so you would have to use your spray paint if you are wanting this a different colour. You can find these in Hobbycraft and The Range. Next you will need to take all your frame apart. We don't use the glass, so you can discard that. So you will end up with the back piece, the middle piece and the frame. So these are all your pieces. So you need to pop your inner and your frame to the side. And first of all, we're going to work on this back piece. So just make sure before you start gluing that your little tab to hang it on your wall is upright. Next in your kit, you will need to find all the back pieces. So it is this one, the counter, and the top print. You will also need to get yourself some PVA glue. This is just clear. You can also use tacky glue, but like I always say, just a little bit harder just to spread. The first print we're going to glue down is the Wonka bar print. This is going to sit along this top edge here. You will have some excess, as always, just to trim off, just in case your frames aren't square. So I'm just going to take my clear PVA glue. I'm just going to pop that underneath. Spread that flat, either with the palm of your hand or a little spreader, and I do that there. So next we're going to line up this next part with our counter. So just place this over the top for now. Taking your counter, you're going to line your counter up to the bottom part of your frame. That then you can slide this print up and down. So your countertop needs to sit just below this shelf here. So once you are happy with the placement, like this, and then I'm just going to keep hold of this, mark with a pen at the bottom of here, and then this will show me where this next print is going to go. I'm going to use the same tacky glue that I used, the PVA glue that I used to do this one. I'm going to go all over this print, line that up with the line that we've just done. You will have a few mil overlap on each side of your print as well, which we trim off afterwards. And then I'm going to squish all that flat down like this. Both my prints are now on, so don't panic lining up your counter. As long as your counter sits along this bottom part here and you've gone further up with your print, you've got all this play. I've added made this slightly bigger just in case your counter sits further down, but that's the way I've lined it up and showed you how to do that. So we're just going to pop all this to the side, and now what you need to do is get the inner part of your frame. So if you are not painting this, that is absolutely fine, but now is the time to paint. So I'm going to show you the paint that I'm going to use. I purchased this from The Range. This is dark gold from Art Studio. I think these were about £1.29, something like that. You can use any colour that you like, but the previous frame that I did was in this metallic gold, and I think it really stood out. So I'm going to just run my paint just along the edges, all on the inside, so you don't have to paint this top part or the bottom part or this side here. So it's basically just on the inside. So I'm just going to paint that, and then I'll be back. So I've just painted all the inside, which is now dry. This has only had one coat. I don't feel it needs another coat. I know we only did one coat on the other one as well. So now if you are doing the outside of the frame, you can, whilst your paint is out, you can paint this as well. I just find it easier to paint this afterwards when everything is together. If you are painting now, what you'll need to do is just paint the outside of your frame. You do not need to paint the inside because this part sits on this lip, so you don't see that. And then you will just need to paint your outside as well. So you just need to paint your outside and this part. However, if you are crafting along and want to do it my way, that's absolutely fine. So now we're going to go on to the next piece. So the back print that we glued on earlier, we're just now going to flip this upside down and then trim off any excess that was left over. Now taking the in part that we've just painted, we're going to sit this on the top. Sometimes I run tacky glue along this part just to sort of make everything stay a lot better. But obviously if your frame is really square, you can then pop on your main frame as well over the top and attach everything back together. So I'm just going to pop all this in. So I'm just jumping in because I need to tacky glue the inside to mine. The previous one, the Alice one, it fitted absolutely perfect. Obviously it's all the same frame, but as you can you see this top lip here? This I have to physically push up for it to sit inside my frame, and it is quite loose. Let me just give it a wiggle. So to get around that, I'm pleased it's happened because it didn't happen with the Alice frame, so I didn't end up gluing mine. I'm going to take this out and then going to run some tacky glue. So no PVA glue, it just takes far too long to dry. Just some tacky glue right the way along this edge of the square. Flip that and then line that up with my frame. Then when I pop my main frame on, that will stop all that wobble. So let me just grab and show you the tacky glue I will be using. This is the Art Studio tacky glue. So I'm just going to attach all that down. If you do have any sort of like glue overspill, I just want to show you this part, because like I say, I didn't do it with the Alice. Just keep everything aligned. And then if you've just got any overspill, just take a clean brush, wipe your glue along the edge, and then just wipe that, and normally just sort of like pick it off like this all the way around. Obviously this bottom part you don't have to be so precise with your glue to sort of like get rid of it all, because the counter does cover it. So I've just gone all the way around following the rim, and I'm just going to let this dry. Just pop you on my shelves, and now I've obviously popped in this main frame, but as you can see it's still slightly out. So what I'm going to do with that before I add my counter, because the counter sits further along this lip here, sort of like further back, I'm just going to run the same gold paint just to cover that lip. Everything else is sat square. Obviously my frame is slightly out. Like I say, with the Alice frame it was a lot more squarer than this. So I'm just going to get my paintbrush, just use the same paint. Obviously all my frame is going to be covered as well, and I'm just going to run my my paint just on this lip here. Everything else is absolutely fine, just to cover that edge there. Because as much, you know, as I do sort of prefer to paint everything while everything is in, I know the counter bottom part is going to sit with a slight lip, and I think that I'm not going to be able to get my paintbrush under that. So I'm just going to just bring it over like this. Then I'm just going to let that dry, and then we're going to build the counter. So let's flip you down. So we are now looking for this counter. So I have added these extra brown pieces on. There might be, you know, some excess to cut off more side than the other, but we are going to concentrate on this lip here and this lip here. So with your counter, you just need to grab 2 of your smaller lollipop sticks. So you will need 2 of these. And then we're going to snip off both ends of this rounded part of our sticks to start with. We're then going to flip this counter this way. You don't have to line anything up right now. It's just to get the length of the sticks. So just pop your stick on the top of the counter, and then you're going to mark with a pen where you need to trim off for your other stick. And then do exactly the same on the other side. So just line that up to the top and then make a mark. You will then need to pinch this between your thumb and finger. As always, make sure you squeeze it really tight and then just trim this off with some scissors. That will stop your wood splitting. You will also need to grab 2 straws. These did not come in your kits. I couldn't fit these in the box, they was far too long. This obviously just strengthens up the counter, so it doesn't matter what colour they are. So now what we need to do is flip this back over. We're going to take this line here, and this is where our stick's going to sit on the inside. So when you line that up, you will have the brown exposed. And then line that up, you will also have brown exposed on this side. So for this one, I have got excess to cut off here. So to get your guide, you're going to put your stick on the inside of this counter here. Line up your stick, and then we're going to fold over this edge and just crease that. Taking your other stick, like say you probably have, you might have excess to cut off this side or the other side. It's just the way it went through the cricket, but you'll have enough. And again, we're going to line it up to this part here and then fold that over and make a crease. So just before we glue in our sticks, we've sort of like just made a rough little guide. I'm just going to flip you up just to show you this part. This counter is now, should, if everything is correct, sit inside just like this. Thank goodness for that. So that should sit in, even though my frame is out, it still sits in, as you can see. So just make sure before you glue your sticks in that it actually does sit in your frame. If your frame is further out than mine, what you might need to do is sort of like get this back out, fold it a bit further down and then pop that back in. So as long as your counter sits right the way along this bottom part here, you have enough play as well. But I'm sure, 98% sure, it will be absolutely fine on the first fold. We are now happy with our Wonka, so we're going to take this out, flip this over. Now I'm going to use my tacky glue and I'm just going to adhere my stick along that guide. So I'm not bothered about all this excess, like I say, as long as I've took my guide, I'm going to glue it to this part. Taking this guide again, and then going to glue that other stick to the other side. And then we're going to trim off all the excess afterwards. My sticks are now glued into place and dried. So any excess now, so I've got a little bit here to cut off and hardly anything on the other side. So you just need to take your scissors and just trim off the excess. I've just flipped you up. So your counter should now sit inside your frame like this. But as you can see, it is quite floppy. We do put a counter on this as well. So we now need to flip this upside down again. And then we're going to take 2 straws, place these on the inside. So one up here and one down here. So for this, rather than using tacky glue, you can obviously use your glue gun. I just need to plug mine in. So what I want to do is just pop a blob of glue on this end and this end. They don't have to be perfectly straight, just sort of like make sure that you've got a little bit of a gap to support your counter. Don't run any glue along this edge here because obviously that might bubble up your print and make it look a little bit bobbly. So I'm just going to plug my glue gun in and then attach both straws like this just inside my counter. Both straws are now in place, just showing you before I pop this into my frame. I've just added some glue gun on both sides. Just make sure that when you're adhering your glue that you don't push this stick too far over, because obviously this then will sort of like give you a gap in your frame. So try and keep everything as square as you can. that is now going to pop inside here. And now we need to find 2 of these, which is the larger lollipop stick and the bamboo skewer. So we're going to start with the 2 larger sticks first. We're going to trim off this corner edge. We then need to place this inside our frame. Obviously it might still be wobbly because nothing is glued yet. Just sort of like sit that on. We're then going to take our other stick and cut off the rounded edge again. Then this stick is going to sit on the opposite side. So what we're aiming for now is we're going to spread out our sticks, is to find the middle. So the middle of your print will be, let me just zoom you in a little bit, these little 2 Wonka bars here. So I'm going to take the middle, I'll just get a pen, of these 2 Wonka bars and just make a mark. I'm then going to trim that off with some scissors. You are then going to lay this stick over the top of the other one. Make sure you spread these out so it hits either side of your frame. And then take your pen and make another mark where this lip ends here for your join. We're then going to trim this piece off again. You should now have 2 sticks with a join in the middle. So what we're going to do now is use our glue gun and attach both these sticks together. So I will show you this part. So I'm taking this edge, running my glue gun along there, and then taking my stick and pushing this together. Wait for that to sort of like get tacky. And then squish your glue on your stick. So you will find one area will become more sort of like bubbly than the other. So I'm going to use this part as the top of my counter. So as you spread the glue out, this is going to go underneath, which you are not going to see. You should now have a full length counter that sits on this top part here. So next we need to take the bamboo skewer. This is going to be slightly longer, so you will need to trim off some excess. So I'm going to use some tacky glue right along this edge, line up my bamboo skewer all the way along, let everything dry, and then I'm going to trim off my excess. I have now lined everything up and it's more or less dry, so that should now pop into place like this. Now you don't have to put your bamboo skewer on at all, you know, if you're quite happy just with the frame. I just feel because it's a counter, it just sort of like gives it that extra lip, but you can skip this part, you know, if it becomes a little bit too fiddly for you. So now what I want to do is paint this. I've just grabbed this one, which is Mocha. It's basically a dark brown. So I'm going to cover all of this little countertop at the top, at the bottom, and let that dry. My shelf is now dried. So next we're going to glue in our counter. So we're going to run some glue on both edges of our sticks. We're also going to run some glue just along this top part and the bottom, and the same on the other side. So we're not running our glue along this bottom piece. And then once all your glue is in place, you're going to line it up and then push that onto the back part. Lift you up onto the back part of your print. So all your glue will sit inside. We haven't got any on either side of the frame. That way all, you know, we don't have any glue spilling out. And again, we don't have any glue spilling out at the bottom. So we're just going to concentrate on the bits that I've just showed you. So I've just run all my tacky glue all the way along. So now we're going to align this into our frame. And then we're going to push this back onto the print. Just bring you up close. So I'm just going to let this part dry, just so it sort of like gets a little bit tacky before we add on the countertop. So you will find you've still got wet glue on either side of your sticks. This is where our next part is going to sit, so don't worry about that. We don't leave it too long. And again, if it has sort of like slightly dried, you can just pop some more paint, some more tacky glue on there. So just line everything up, push everything to place, and just let that go a little bit tacky. Next, taking your shelf, we are now going to run some tacky glue along this edge here. So that's the back part. And then you can also run some just along this top part of your counter as well. So obviously, you know, you don't have to be so neat with this part because you've got all the underneath of your frame. And then what you're going to do then is slot that into place, push it down on your counter and let it dry. So I've just placed my counter on the top. As you can see, the glue at the back is still drying. I've just gone ahead with a dry brush and took off as much of the glue as I can. Obviously that's going to go clear. By the time we get everything on there, you're not going to see any of that anyway. So next what we're going to do is concentrate on these shelving at the back. So there's loads of different shelves that you can make 3D. Just bearing in mind, depending on what you're putting on the counter, if you end up with some bottles over here, your bottles are going to be far too high if you put a counter along, sort of like a shelving along this part. So first of all, I'm going to take this middle shelf here, taking one of my lollipop sticks. I'm just going to start sort of having a play about of where I want my shelves to go. I've already built one of these before, so I want to do this slightly different. So the original one, I went up here. So I'm going to take this shelf here. So I'm going to lay my frame flat. Obviously it's propped up at the moment. I'm just going to mark with a pen either side of where the shelf ends. And then I'll probably do one over here, maybe one over here, and then maybe one at the top. So it's completely up to you where you want to put your shelf in. And again, if you want your shelves the same colour as your counter, which I'm going to do, you are best cutting these and painting these before you glue everything together. So I'm just going to have a play about, measure up some shelves, and then I'll be back. So at the moment, I'm just having a play about. I have used my glue gun on this shelf, tacky glue on these two shelves. I always find it best to paint mine afterwards, but like I say, if you are, you know, you don't trust yourself with painting, you don't want it all over your print, you can paint these ahead of time when you are doing this counter. So I'm just having a play about with these bottles. I've also got the till out. This is only printed on cardstock, so it is best in a corner. You don't have to use it if you don't want to. I just think it sort of like finishes everything off. This is not mounted at all, so you might want to put a little skewer under there. I didn't on the last one. Obviously I just tacky glued that just in the corner, just sort of so it's there, but it sort of like blends everything together. So like I say, I'm just working on my shelves. I'm having a play about with these bottles. If you are wanting a few of these bottles on your shelving, I would suggest using your wider lollipop sticks that we use for our mixing, because obviously the bottoms of these are quite wide, so it'll just give it a little bit more stability, especially if you're putting a couple on. So again, I'm just having a play about. Might put another one over here somewhere, gluing everything into place, and then we'll build some bars shortly. I am now happy with everything I've placed, so I'm going to put my two little bottles over here. I've also added a smaller shelf. Now I was going to build sort of like a little stand here, but I just sort of like worked it out just by folding one of the Wonka bars. And then what I want to do, rather than sort of like having these just stuck on the counter like this, I'm going to use this frame here by sticking my Wonka bars at the front. That way they're going to sit, it's going to give some stability of it sort of like sitting like this on the counter. And then I can add some more Wonka bars at the top. So this is going to be sort of like a little shelving area here. So if you are wanting to do that, you will just need to take your second part down of your shelf, just this one here, and then these will inline and then adhere to this top part here. Obviously we're going to decorate it as we go. So now everything is in place and I'm happy. I'm going to take these bottles off, and then I'm going to use my brown paint and just paint all my shelving. I have now painted all my shelves. I did take the dark brown for this one, just so, you know, it's a very similar colour as you can see. but just to sort of like make a little bit more wood effect. The mocha that we used is quite a darker brown, so you might want to go ahead and paint yours purple, gold, whatever colour you like. So I've just flipped you down, and these are all the bits and pieces that you will get in the kit. So we're going to start folding out some boxes. I kept these larger ones, obviously for the outside of the frame. So I'm just going to pop these to the side. Bring all the other chocolate bars in. So you can obviously use some little cardstocks in the middle of this, depending if you want the really 3D effect. What I did with the last one, just looking at it now, I literally just folded these in the joins. So taking this one for example, I just folded this in half, used some tacky glue and built these together. The Slugworth, again, you will see you'll need to fold just a few mil from the top, just so you're exposing this part here. So I always find these easier just to fold round with my fingers, because obviously if you start scoring it might drag off some of the colour. And then fold in the bottom part as well. Just line it all up. And then if you know you've got a little bit of excess like this, you can trim that off with your scissors once you've finished folding everything. The other one, the Wonka bar, that is the same. So you're just going to fold just along before the sort of like brown starts. And again on this side, you will see you've got plenty of overlap as well. And like I say, you can insert some cardstock. We've also got some little golden tickets as well that we can place inside our little bars. So this is really the only one where you need sort of like 4 folds in this one. So all the others are bloody, you know, you'll be able to see like these ones where you're going to be able to fold. You fold on this one, and then fold that together, and then use your tacky glue. Like I say, you can put inserts in. So for this one, you're going to fold it on the join here. Then we're just going to fold just above this Wonka sign here. So we need a fold along here. Next, you're going to fold just below this pink line here. So just keep squeezing it and folding as you go, just lining up both edges. And then you're going to do exactly the same on the other side. So we're going to fold this just above that Wonka sign there. And then folding it just below the pink line there. And then when you place everything together, you will have an extra flap. Just tuck that flap in, which we're going to trim off in a second. And then you're going to line everything up, which will create a square. So let me just trim this excess off here. Just trim that part, and then once you bend everything together, you will have a tiny little flap on the opposite side of what you didn't cut, and then that is going to sit on the top. So we're basically just forming a square. Like this. Then you can lift this up and then just run some tacky glue or your PVA glue just along there and adhere that together. You should now have a square with all your print on the top and the bottom, because obviously we don't see this side or this side as we glue it in. So you will have an extra piece here. So what I'm going to do with this, you might want to take some cardstock, you know, if you've got some thicker, obviously this is only foil, but it's just to finish the edges off, just so if someone was to look down your frame, you're not going to be able to see straight through your little box. So you can run your glue gun around this. I'm going to do that because it's going to be a lot quicker for me just to show you. So let me just run some glue along there. I'm going to pop it on my foil. And then I'm just going to use my scissors and trim off the end. And then I'm going to do exactly the same, lining it up the best I can. And do the same on the other side. So I now have foil on both ends of my little bar. So what I'm going to do now is just go ahead, fold all these bits and pieces, and then we will do this one, and I'll show you how to do the cardboard insert on this one, just in case you want to do some on your smaller ones. But to be fair, because these are just going on your shelves, you're not really going to gain a lot by doing your cardboard inside this. But like I say, it's completely up to you. I'm just going to show you one. I've built a few already. So you can use your tacky glue, your PVA glue with this. I do find it easier just to sort of like run my glue gun just along the edge of the fold like this, and then just fold this over, because we're not going to see the back of these, so these don't have to be, you know, you don't have to worry so much about your glue. And as long as you've got the little gap inside to insert your little golden ticket. So again, with this one, let me just show you this one. I'm going to fold along this edge here. I know a lot of you have already had these in your previous kit, so you know what you need to do. And then I'm going to fold it along here. Line it all up. Flip it the other way, run my glue gun along there, and then attach that to the back. I've built all my bars now, and I've just taken 2 of my Wonka bars, and I've just inserted, I haven't glued these yet because I'm not quite sure how they're going to sit on my frame. Just pop 2 inside here, kept 2 blank, and then obviously 2 here. So I'm just going to bring the frame back in. And then just in my bottles, I've added some poly balls. These do not come in your kit. You know, you can add whatever you like. And I've also added some little Love Heart Fimo sprinkles as well. So everything is built, everything is prepped. And now, again, all your shelves will be dry. You can now start playing about. So what I've done is I've used my glue gun. I've adhered that to the bottom of my shelf, and also used some glue gun at the back of my glass. And just sort of like push that into place. I'm then going to use some glue gun again, and I just want this just sort of like below here. So I'm just going to run some glue gun along here. So it's definitely worth using your glue gun for any glass jars that you use. So I'm just going to pop that on my shelf here. And I've left a little gap because I do want a little chocolate bar in there. And now what you're going to do is take all your chocolate bars. You might want sort of to pick out this 3D sign. Let me just pull you a little bit closer, just like I did on the last one. So even if you haven't got any shelves here, you might want to take one of your Wonka wrappers and place this over the top. Again, you can use your glue gun because you want everything to sort of like stand out. So you might want to place this over the top of this print, and then another one over here, and then 2 along here. You know, just work along. Decide what you want to do. I am going to obviously use this little till, which is going to sit on this part here. So I'm just going to pop that there for now. I'm not going to stick anything on the outside of my frame because I still need to paint that, which I haven't decided yet. Obviously, I'll show you the previous one that I made at the end of the video. I just don't want it the same. That shelf is still a little bit wet. So now you can take your glue gun, your tacky glue, and then you're just going to fill out all your shelves with all your bits and pieces. You might want some smaller jars as well that you might already have and put those on different shelves. So I'm going to work all the way along. Making this into like a 3D, like we discussed earlier with my Wonka bars. Just so I know these sit off the shelf. So I'm just, obviously I might not put these where I'm going to place them, but just to show you. Sort of like have a few just going along here, and then I'm going to use the top shelf to add a few more. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to glue everything in, just bearing in mind, like I said, if you are using your glass jars, just run some glue gun at the back as well, and then stick that to the back. That will stop your sort of like shell from falling forward, because there's no support under these, and sometimes these can become quite heavy depending on what you've placed in. So I'm going to place everything where I want it, and then I'm going to be back. This is the design I went for. This is a completely different design to what I went for in the first frame build, but I will show you. However, there is the same amount of chocolate bars, same amount of jars, etc. And I will show you at the end of the video once everything is complete, just to give you, you know, some ideas of where you can put your shelving and all your bars. So now what I need to do is paint the outside of this frame, and I'm going to use the same gold that I used previously to paint this inside. Just to refresh your memory, it is the metallic dark gold by Art Studio, which you can purchase in the range. All my frame has now been painted. I've only just give it one coat, just so I can expose some of this bare wood. You might want to go ahead and do 2 coats. So now we're going to work on the outside part of the frame, which is the last part of this build. So these are all the outside pieces. You might want to have added these into your inside frame. However, they are quite big, so I would suggest keeping these to the outside. So taking your large Wonka bar, I've literally just folded it just like we did with the smaller ones. Got myself a scrap piece of cardboard. Just fold that on the inside, just so it overlaps each side. So the easiest way to do that is to lay your cardboard on the top and take your guides and then just trim that off like this. Next, taking your gold foil, we're just going to wrap this part with our foil. You can then take your Wonka bar wrapper and then just fold it all the way along this cardboard rim. So next you will find the Wonka ticket. You might want to go and take out this white edge here with some crinkle scissors, or just go along with your normal scissors. So I'm not going to use my crinkle scissors for this. I'm just going to snip off the white part, working all the way along the edge. And then you can slot this inside your bar, depending on you know how you want this. You can glue it to the back as well, or put it to the back part of your bar wrapper. So I'm just going to pop mine in there for now. I'm not going to glue this because I feel like, you know, it's nice to have it sort of like coming in and out, just in case I need to change the position. So we now have our larger pieces and we've built our Wonka bar. So this one, which is part of the film, as you can see, where they all sign it before they go in. On the previous frame, I did it to the left. So this time I'm going to do it to the right. And I want this at an angle like this. So I'm going to use my glue gun, pop it just a few, you know, little dabs on this side and this side. That way I've got a little bit more play of where it needs to go. You can also use your tacky glue. So I'm just going to adhere that there. The previous one, I did this Wonka hat in the middle here. So I'm going to take it over to the other side and I'm going to adhere that there again with my glue gun. So rather than putting it on here, as always, I'm going to place this on the back of my print. That way, when I sort of like line it up, I've got a little bit more play of where it needs to sit. Next, I'm going to take the Wonka bar. Obviously, this ticket isn't glued yet. I'm just going to keep that in place, and I'm going to place this in the middle of my frame. So I want my Wonka bar here. You might want yours at an angle. It's completely up to you, but I do want mine square. So I'm going to, again, use my glue gun on the back of this bar. Line that up with my frame and stick that in the middle. This is the next print I want to add into this corner here. Depending on how it's come through the Cricut, you might have to sort of like trim off a darker edge, which I have just done. It's only a small piece. So I'm just going to bend this over like this, just to create a ripple. And then I want to sit this just sort of like overlapping this corner. So I'm going to use my glue gun, just pop a blob each side, line that up, and then stick that to my frame. Next, I'm going to take this print. Again, you might have a little bit to trim off at the top. So I'm just going to trim that off now. I am then going to fold this again, just to give a ripple effect. And then I want to place this in this corner over here. So I'm going to use my glue gun on this part and this part. I ended up going further up because I want to do the last print down here. And as that was down there, it looked a bit too clumped. So again, it's completely up to you where you place these. So last is this one. Again, I'm going to make the ripple effect. Pop in my glue gun just along this edge, and then I'm going to sit that at the bottom of my frame. And we are now complete. How adorable is this frame? It's probably one of my favourites that I've designed. I haven't done anything with this because I feel like it's a nice little feature. You might want to glue yours wherever, but I'm going to leave mine loose. So I'm just going to grab the other frame just to show you the other design that I did on the previous build. So this is the one we have just built. And this is the other one I built previously. So like I say, everything is sort of like in different positions. You've got the same amount of chocolate bars, same amount of prints. But as you can see, I've just done a slightly different design on this one. So I really hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Cannot wait to see what you create. Goodbye everybody.